Hi everyone, this is Ashley with Marshflower Studio. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how I make these little voodoo dolls. They're super fun, and when you live somewhere like Savannah, where it's rumored that there have been voodoo priests and priestesses, you can't not make something like this. Super adorable. So the yarn that I'm using for the video is some of this. It's a Hobby Lobby yarn. It's one of the newer ones that they've come out with. It is a Lion brand, and they are calling this a Superfine #1 and recommending a 4mm hook for it. The first two I made with this color, which is called Jazz. But for the video, I'm going to use this other color, and it is called Beats. So I wanted to kind of mix up my colors of my little voodoo dolls a bit here. So I'm switching over to this one that's a little bit more vibrant for this specific one. So it does recommend a 4mm hook, but I am going to be using a 3.5mm hook, just because I want these stitches to be a little bit tighter, and you know, not showing stuffing poking out through them. So to get started with this guy, we need to make our first leg, and then we'll make our second leg, and then we'll make the body and the head. So if you want to change colors at any point, just know that we are working from the bottoms of the feet to the top of the head. Okay, so we'll start with our magic circle. Yay, magic circle. And we'll do our 6 single crochets. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okie doke. And then we're going to have an increase row, but it's going to be an increase and then a single crochet. So we'll have 9 kind of total here for this row. So there's 1 and 2, and then 3. And then we'll do 4 and 5. And then 6. And then 7 and 8. And then we have 9. Okay. So then we are going to do 2 rows of single crochet. So 18 single crochets total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And if you want this little guy to have longer legs than these two, just add a couple more rows of single crochet. Honestly, as long as you don't increase, then the rest of it will just continue to flow. I kept mine this length because I do make these little keychains, and I didn't want them to become so big that it was then kind of a bother to have this swinging around on a bag or a zipper. So So that's the first leg. I'm going to do my little chain and cut my yarn, or my string. It's definitely more of a string. Make sure you pull your magic circle tight down here at the bottom of the foot. We'll set that aside for a second, and we'll make another one just like it. So again, you got your magic circle, you've got your 6 in the magic circle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Pardon me. I have not been doing videos the last week or so because my allergies hit pretty hard as this cold front came through the south. So there's 1 and 2. And 3. 4 and 5. And then 6. And then we have 7 and 8. And then 9. Right. Make sure that magic circle is nice and tight there. I find that if sometimes, not all the time, the string will get kind of twisted around that other part of the magic loop, and then it makes pulling this nice and tight a lot more difficult. So I typically try to untwist it. There we go. Before I move on. Sometimes I don't always get there, but that time I pulled it and it finally closed the rest of the way up. So we'll do our 18 single crochets and then we'll move on to the body. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right, so from here, we're going to join our 2 little legs, and you're just going to go straight into, I'll try to hold this a little bit closer, or maybe we'll just zoom in. That's better. You're just going to go straight into that very next stitch. So we finish this round here, we're going to go right into this very next one and keep on going. So we're going to go all 9 stitches around the top of this one, and then we'll jump back over to this leg and do all 9 stitches around this one. Okay, very, very simple, easy construction here. Oh, there's 1. And I've got some of my strings getting in the way. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, was our last one for that leg. So we're going to jump back over to this other leg and do 9 over here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. All right, so if you've ever joined parts or pieces this way, you'll know that where this little join is, you tend to have a little bit of a bigger gap. So we're going to fix that right now, and then we can get rid of some of these long extra strings that just become annoying, right? So the string where I finished off my first leg is here. I'm going to put that one on my yarn needle, and I'm just going to kind of go across. So there's my starter strings for my legs going out the sides now. I'm going to go across that little hole and down under one of those leg stitches, and then back under that stitch that this came from. And I'm just going to do that 2 times. Kind of make sure that little gap is closed. And then I'm going to tie this in a knot, you know, happy little square knot. And then I am going to cut a good portion of those starter tails off, and then use my little stuffing stick to kind of shove them down in the bottoms of these feet so I don't have to mess with them anymore. Usually with the starter tails, they don't bother me, but with this string, they get particularly obnoxious to me. So now that those are out of the way, we're going to have 6 rows of single crochet, creating this bottom part of the body. Okay, so we're going to do a couple decrease rows once we get up here towards the neck, but right now we're creating the majority of this body section of this little Voodoo Dude. All right, so let me zoom back out just a little. And these are just rows of 18. But this is another one of those patterns where if you are off by 1 single crochet, it is not going to hurt the overall design, shape, whatever, of your finished piece. As I make this video for you guys, it is mid-October, and in the coastal Georgia area, it typically doesn't really get cold until December. Like, it cools for sure. We definitely lose a lot of that sticky humidity in October and November, but we've had a cold front, and by cold I mean our lows are in the 50s. We still get up into the 70s during the day, but those colder mornings are a little rough on those of us that don't do cold. That's definitely hard on the allergies when the temperature changes pretty much overnight from sweaty and sticky to, I need a hoodie. Even my tiny tornadoes have been feeling the pain on this one. I'm going to get back around the other side and then see how many rows I have here. I know it's not quite 6 yet, but I feel like I'm getting close. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'll do 2 more rows here. I definitely don't work as fast when I'm using this string. And I don't know if that's just because the size of the string, the size of the stitches you have to try to push these hooks through. And the size of the project can have a lot to do with it. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, I'm gonna get back around to this other side, and then we'll start working on the top part of this guy. The Voodoo Dude. Okay, so in the next row, we are going to have a regular decrease row where we're going to drop from 18 down to 12. So single crochet, decrease, repeat all the way around. So there's 1, and then we'll decrease on 2. And we got 3, decrease on 4, 5, decrease on 6, 7, decrease on 8. I've had some questions about my decreases. There are different ways to do decreases. The way that I typically do them, I go under both of the front loops of the 2 stitches where I need to do my decrease. I yarn over, pull that through both of those front loops, and then use that to make my single crochet. Okay, so there are other ways to do it, and whichever way you're most comfortable with or you like, by all means, just do that. There were a couple different ways that I've done decreases as I have learned over the years, and this is just the one that seems the most logical to me, so that's the one I stick with. All right, I'm going to put a little bit of stuffing down in this dude's legs because we're only going to get smaller, creating the neck here, and then trying to manipulate this stuffing through a smaller hole can be a bit more challenging. So use your stuffing stick, push it down in there. We don't want it to be so tight that you can start to see stuffing through your stitches, so be careful of that. All right, our next row, we are doing another single crochet and decrease. All right, and then we're going to do 9 increases. Okay, so we've made his little neck, and now we're going to increase back out to make his head. So there's 1 and 2. I'm trying not to talk quite as much in this video because the talking aggravates the throat tickle. Now we're going to have an increase row out to 24, so an increase and then 2 single crochets. We're going to have 4 rows of single crochet. All right. So I've got my 4 rows of 24. And now we're going to do a decrease row. So 2 single crochets and a decrease. This takes us down to 18. And after this row, we're going to put the eyes in. Okey-doke. So we have 2 rows left, but if you are going to do the safety eyes like these guys have, you're going to want to put these in at this point. And these, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 6 rows down from the top. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to put mine right here. And you want to make sure you're doing this to where they're not just on the side of the head. They're actually on the front. And you can kind of decide how far you want them spaced. Okay. And we'll pop the backs on. And because this is, kind of a small little dude here, putting the backs on these is going to create all of the indentation that you would need. So you don't have to worry about trying to indent the eyes anymore. Okay. And of course you don't have to do safety eyes. You can do buttons, you can embroider eyes if you want. I just like how these little black safety eyes make these guys look cute and scary at the same time. So, alright, so we're going to do single crochet and decrease all the way around. And I need to finish stuffing the top of his head, and then we'll do a couple more decreases just to kind of close that in. Give him some brains here. Now, there are definitely projects where I wish they made colored stuffing so that for things like this, I could put some lime green brains in there. Or if I'm working on, black cat, I could stuff it with black stuffing. they wouldn't show. But then I know you'd run into the problem of, well, I need a certain shade of pink or a certain shade of blue, and they don't make that. And then a lot of people tell me just to use some of the extra yarn, some of the trimmings, but when I've tried that, mine just seem to get really lumpy. All right, so my last couple decreases are done, and trim that off. I will sew the top of this closed. If you haven't done this method before, we're going under the front loop only, from the outside to the inside, in just these last round of stitches. Whoops. I almost need a smaller yarn hook for this stuff. Okay. I'll pull that nice and tight. I'll stick it back down through the head. And I'll usually, for these guys, stick it out the back of the neck, because when I sew his little arms on, I'll tie them with this to make sure that everything kind of stays put. All right, so for the arms, super duper simple. All right, we're gonna do our magic circle, our 6 single crochets in our magic circle. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Pull that tight. And then we're just going to have 24 single crochets. Okay. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 21, 22, 23, 24. So then I'm going to make sure that magic circle is pulled nice and tight. And I'm going to just do a single crochet through both sides of the top of this little arm here. That usually only takes 2. We'll do our little chain 1, cut that off, and that starter tail, you can trim that off as well, or you can stuff it down inside the arm. So we'll just sew this right to the side of his little body. Arm is done. You don't need to stuff it or anything. For the hair on the top of the head, this guy, I think let's do this light blue color. So what I'm going to do is we have our magic circle right here, and I'm going to go under 2 of those little last stitches there, and then I'm going to tie a square knot. And then the piece that's still attached to my needle, I'm going to cut, and I'm going to go under the next 2 and do the same thing. I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to tie a little square knot here. And then trim that off. And then the last one right through there. Again, little square knot. And then we'll trim that one as well. You can just take your yarn needle and pull these apart, and it kind of creates this 80s crimped effect. Or to make them a little more fluffy, I use the carding comb. So you can untwist them if you like, depending on the project. Sometimes I will go ahead and untwist them, especially if there's a lot more than this. But when there's just, you know, a couple, it's really not that hard to get it brushed out. And then you have this lovely little tuft of almost stroll hair. Okay, and I don't like mine to be quite that tall, so I just kind of come in with my scissors. I don't want it to be a straight line across, so that's why I kind of cut it this way. Leave some parts of it a little bit longer than others. And there we have our hair. And then for the face, or the mouth, I guess, and the stitches, I will use a little bit of the black that I have. This is another Hobby Lobby yarn that I have. I try to keep lots of different things on hand just because I know that I'm going to end up needing it. And right now I can't find the end of this one. There we go. So you don't need a ton, but it's always better to have more than you need than to run out. Right, so stick that through there. I always start with the mouth. I usually come in 1 stitch over from where I want it to start, and then I'll come back out this side and tie it off to this starter string. So we're just going to go down a row And I go back and then over 2. Back 1 and under 2. Back 1, under 2. I feel like especially for these guys, this just gives you a nice little smile here. Maybe a little creepy, but it's a voodoo doll. And you can give them whatever kind of mouth you want them to have. You can make it look sinister, sneaky, or whatever. All right, so I'm finishing my mouth here, and I'm going to kind of pop out through the back of the head. And this is where you can really just kind of start doing your own thing. So we're going to be making our stitches. So I'm going to come out one hole, I'm going to go in another, and then because we don't want these to be too crazy, so I've got my center stitch, and then we're just going like one stitch at a time, back and forth. I'll go over and then back underneath, over and underneath. And you can definitely do some that are facing different directions. You can have some close together and some far apart. All completely up to you. And then you can do some that are just an X shape. I like to do lots of little ones, kind of down the back and around the sides. So again, I'm just making that longer stitch for the middle, and then we'll go over it and then come out underneath, farther down that line. So once you've done both your arms and got those sewn on, you've got all the little stitches you want to have. Just return out the same hole where you started over here, tie it off, and you'd be done. All right. So I hope you enjoy making these little voodoo dudes and come up with some creative colors, you know, give them some fun stitches. I would love to see some of the things that you guys make. So if you post them on your social media, you know, tag Marshflower Studio so I can see how they look. I've had a couple other projects where some really awesome people have shared some of the things they've made from my videos, and it's just, they're so cute. I love it. So make sure if you share some photos, tag me. And I'd love to see all the different things that come up. Also, in the descriptions coming up soon, hopefully, you know, with tiny tornadoes, sometimes soon is relative. I'm going to be posting links to some of the written patterns. So make sure you check for those. It's not going to be all of them, and it's not going to be all at once. They take time to get typed up and posted and all that great stuff, because I would rather be doing this than on the computer. But also in the descriptions, for most of the videos anyway, there are some little links and or usernames, I guess, for some of the different social media accounts I have. So Facebook and Instagram are basically the same thing these days. And both of those are at Marshflower Studio. You can follow either one of those and see a lot of posts about things that I'm making, videos that I'm posting. If you have not subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, make sure you do that so you can see all of, or get notifications for all of the upcoming videos. Make sure that you check out videos that have already been posted. There's lots of fantastic little things to make. Everything is pretty much, you can just sit down and make it without having to take several days to get it done. I also have in that description some of the different types of art that I do. So I've done lots of drawing and some digital design as well over the years, and I have sites like Redbubble and TeePublic where you can order those designs on all kinds of stuff, from stickers to t-shirts and cups and shower curtains, and the number of stuff that you can get these things printed on these days is kind of nuts. So make sure you check that out. There's some really cool designs on there. But if you like the little Voodoo Dude, give him a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe. I think this Voodoo Dude may only be getting one arm, because that looks kind of fun. I'll have to contemplate this. Alright, so for all the happy crochet nerds, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.